Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Let me just confess something very quickly. I scheduled a different speech. I was going to talk about foster care and adoption. But I had such a wonderful experience at my Toastmasters meeting today. I was on such a high, I had to put together a different speech. You probably wonder what happened in my Toastmasters meeting. Right, Shan?
I do.
You'll find out later. We are District 30. District 30 has 8 divisions, 50 areas, and 230 active clubs. I've been an area governor for 2 years, Central North Divisional governor for 1 year, and had the opportunity to be a club ambassador. And the clubs that I visited in Central North, Central South, and some others, basically every club does their evaluations the same way. There's a speaker, there's an evaluator, the speaker gives the speech, the evaluator gives the evaluation. Now when I came to next step and encountered the round table evaluations, I said, wonder why clubs don't do the round table. Kind of break up the variety in the meeting. I've concluded this is probably happening by observation. First of all, generally when we start a new club, there's a demonstration meeting. And that's what's generally done. So most clubs will go ahead and pattern that, and they really won't advance past that. Well, I have a challenge for each of you. If you're in a different club, think about this challenge. Now, I'm not saying change the basic meat of our evaluation. We want our evaluations to be balanced. We want to share what the speaker's done well. We want to encourage them in areas to work on by being specific. I'm not saying change that, but I'm saying let's change some of the methods of how we give evaluations. When you join Toastmasters, each of you should have gotten a little packet that says effective evaluations. If you can remember that. Nobody remembers that. Well, I remember it. And I remember reading mine. And I remember making some notes about different ways you can change your evaluation. So I want to share some of that. There is the round table evaluation. Now, we do round table here. The only thing I would change about our round table is we generally try not to repeat what somebody else says. I like the idea of somebody repeating, because that tells me, they're picking up something that perhaps I need to work on. But if they mention the same thing I did well, hey, I need to keep doing that and keep that in my speeches. Then there's the stop the speaker. Now we do it generally in our speech clinic. But this is a method that they recommend that you're giving your speech for the first time. Now you want to work this out with the speaker, where you would just stop them at a certain time. Peggy, I could be giving a speech. I might be talking softly. You would shout out, Cynthia, I can't hear you, right in the middle of the speech. Gary, I might have sort of a dull ending. You can shout out, Cynthia, that's a pretty dull ending. Why don't you change it up? That's stop the speaker. Again, you will want to work that out with the speaker so there's no hurt feelings. Then there's the specialized evaluation. Now, I want to try this one in our club one day. Now, this is where, Shannon, you're put in charge of evaluating every speaker's introduction. Bob, you would analyze every speaker's body. Tim, you would concentrate on the ending. Rocky, you may pay attention to the vocal variety or body language of the speaker. And then you would give your feedback. Another one is the panel discussion. Now this is a panel discussion among the evaluators, the speech evaluators, as well as those who are evaluating roles in our CL manual. They would have like a panel, I can picture it now, the panel with cups of water sitting in their notes, as they're discussing what the speaker talked about in this panel format. And then if time permits, they would open it up to the audience. Here's what we did today in HHS. It was the typical send out the agenda, nobody responds. And I'm now at the point in my life now, I don't panic anymore when nobody signs up for anything. I still send out the agenda. In the blank spaces, I put a smiley face. I don't kid myself and sign myself up for every role. I sign myself up for one role, send it out. And I generally get responses like 30 minutes before the meeting for a role. I'm used to it now. We didn't have any formal speakers. So one of our members said that I'll be prepared for table topics. So we'll be pretty prepared because that'll probably be most of the meeting. I was going through my CC manual, reading about gender evaluations. And I never noticed this before, but it mentioned about evaluating table topic responses. And I remembered at one of our other meetings, one of our members said, Cynthia, why don't we do that? I said, Louis, that's a good idea. We'll think about the future. Well, the future happened today. So we have 4 members, 4 club members, that's all we had today. But we had 3 guests. And I explained what we were going to do. Our table topics mistress had coins. Everybody picked a coin, read the year, and talked about that year. Everyone made notes. And we actually evaluated each table topic. It was one of the most enjoyable collegiate meetings we've had in a long time. Everybody got to know everybody a little better based on the year they chose. One person had the year 1966 and simply said, I was about 2 years old. I don't quite remember, but this is probably what happened. And just the dialogue was just tremendous. When we went around the room to talk to get some feedback from the meeting, our 3 guests said, this was really a good meeting. I love the dialogue. I like the fact you had people evaluate table topics. I've never heard that before. Isn't table topics a small speech? Just a shorter speech? Why not? Well, I felt so good after that meeting. I said, I'm going to have to share this at next step. So I know we usually do our round tables, and that's good, but maybe one day we may want to do the shout the speaker out of the middle. Maybe one day we want to do the specialized evaluations. What I found out is when you make some slight changes in your meeting, it can add such a different dynamic that I want you to think about more things you want to do different at your club.
I like how you had the questions to the audience on, do you remember your packet that you received? As I had just received my packet, I don't think I have that one. The evaluation packet, so I thought that was good. And the repeats, I like the repeats. That was something I found hard when I first came here, to not repeat things in the evaluation. And I really like how you ended giving suggestions to the audience in how to change things up with our meeting.
It's always exciting for me to be able to watch you up there because you're a very polished speaker. You speak to the audience, you're speaking to me when you speak up there, and you get very specific about different points. So areas, perhaps potentials for improvement might be, and this is a stretch because you're an advanced speaker, so potentials for improvement might be just a little more engagement with the audience and getting some sort of feedback. And the opportunities are there to grow depending on where you want to go with this. I'm not sure with this speech if you're going to take it to other clubs or if you're going to say it again, but certainly it has a lot of good potential for a lot of people to grow with it.
This was par for the course for you. Very enjoyable presentation. A couple of things I think you do really well is I love the way you you incorporate your physical gestures into your articulation. You use your hand gestures and such to emphasize points and bring the audience in. It's very strong. Your pacing of the speech, the way you enunciate words clearly, no difficulty whatsoever understanding. I love your use of the powerful declarative sentence, and every once in a while you throw in a good question to make us think. The only comment I'd have to, if you gave that speech again, I'd love to hear you expand a little bit more on some of the newer techniques that you were proposing, just to give us a better sense of exactly how you envision them sort of playing out in a group.
Cynthia, really great job with your speech. I like the transition at the beginning, letting us know that something so exciting happened that you were compelled to change your speech. It was a great way to kind of get to know you and get into your head what was going on. I liked how you said there's lots of things. It was a very tutorial speech. And it reminded me of a lot of the parameters of what works with Toastmasters, and kind of got me into the thinking about giving speeches again and the whole Toastmaster experience. You talked about what should stay the same, what things are good. That helped me. And then you talked about what to change. You're very well organized. I love the way you have kind of a narrative flowing style. Again, with the gestures, what really brought me in was how I love the round table. It was just kind of warmed up the room when you said that several times. And then you intersperse with these philosophical statements. And the one I loved was, the future happened today. I want you to use that phrase again and maybe entitle this speech, The Future Happened Today. I don't know. And maybe elaborate on that. I really liked the example about the coins, and the specific example talked about the coins, and maybe a good ending would be to open up to dialogue now and have some technique to get each person to give a little feedback.
Strengths where you really use the audience well. You're very aware of the audience. You had a little tease. Shannon hates teases, but yeah, that was very effective. He mentioned later on that there was going to be something coming up, so we were kind of ready for that. You had a call to action at the end, which was great. And you had this internal dialogue. You sort of stepped us through what was going on in your mind, what you were thinking about. And you had what I called 2/3 of a story there. And you had a little bit things which were known, you know the background of them. Things were heard. There's one part that's missing. We'll get to that in a little bit. It's the hated tease again. One big thing, of course, is to set up before. We've got tons of time here. You really need the lectern, no problem, but do set it up before so it's ready to go. Otherwise, your big opening is basically clunk, clunk, clunk for 2 or 3 minutes. Begin with the benefits. What are we going to get? You will learn, you will discover, you will find out a whole new way to look at whatever. This will transform the club, will take it to a next level, something like that. Use the you. A lot of times use we do this, we do that, and you'll listen closely to you'll see where the we start slipping in. Use the you. This will make you better. This will help you better. This will help you and your experience with the club, that type of thing. Make it personal, make it really hit on people. Finally, the thing that's missing in the story is seen. You kind of glossed over some of the things. I was talking to this person and that person. Let's see the person. Blonde hair, excited about Toastmasters, or brown hair and always really kind of, show up for every other meeting, something like that, whatever it is. But let's see who that person is.
I liked how you did move back and forth, and your gestures were very strong, and it was certainly an interesting speech for all of us as Toastmasters. The area where I thought there could have been an improvement was in a couple of cases your voice tended to trail off. One time was when you warned the person doing table topics to have a lot of the table topics ready because they were doing prepared speeches. And when you said table topics was really a shorter speech, that I think that could have been a little louder. Because table topics to me is one of the most important things that happens in Toastmasters, because that really mimics, everybody's got a different work day, but it really mimics my work day. But other than that, your speech was excellent and very informative.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Cynthia, how many of you were intrigued when Cynthia said, "Let me just confess something"? My first thought was that she was going to confess that she doesn't know how to put up lecterns. And I think that might have been another, I was very intrigued by the confession at all, and I think that might have been kind of a nice segue after the boringness of watching her try to put this thing together. So a suggestion I might have for you for next time is, if you want it set up, have somebody else do it. Just say, "Mr. Toastmaster, would you mind setting up the lectern for me?" And then if he takes 5 minutes, we don't care. That would be one thing, but then you went on this to talk about how, let me confess something, and you talked about how you didn't have anything scheduled for the meeting, and then you were reading this thing, and you got so excited, and your enthusiasm really came through, and just in your body language and in the way you were talking, it was just obvious you could not wait to tell us this, and I thought that was just so captivating. I think that others probably felt that too. The next thing after your confession that I was kind of intrigued by was, you said, I have a challenge. Did you think that the challenge was something that you were curious about? Did you think, I know I was thinking about it, and you sort of went into what you wanted us to do, but you didn't tell us what are the benefits. So it's like if I said, I'll bet you can't run around this block 5 times in a row. Why would you want to run around You got to tell us right away. If I say, I'll bet you $500 you can't run around, well, $500, okay, I'm willing to consider it. So when you offer us a challenge, I'll offer you a challenge that will make you a better evaluator. I'll offer you a challenge that will make your meetings more exciting. Try and get the benefits right up front so that we're tuned in. I really enjoyed your lists of specific evaluation techniques, many of which I'd never heard before, and that to me the very scariest was the stop the speaker. and I just cannot imagine going about my business and then hearing no or stop or wait. I think that would be so scary, but in a way I do think that if you're an advanced speaker, that would be a great way to just try and improve immediately and also develop a little bit of a harder skin. I really like that idea. I also liked when you talked about the fact that slight changes add different dynamics. I would suggest also, and excitement. Sometimes Toastmasters meetings can be much of a muchness. If you want something different, do something different. I also like that you addressed the audience individually, and you noted, well, none of you have read your evaluation manual, none of you remember this. So I thought it was obvious that you were looking at us and monitoring us. A couple of the suggestions I would have would be, again, provide the benefits to us directly. But the main thing I would say is this particular speech was to research your topic. And it asked that you quote multiple sources. Basically, you were talking about one meeting, and you were so excited that this is the one you're going to get it in on. It didn't really fit, I don't think, the objectives of this particular speech. But one thing that I think would have been much more helpful in this in general, and perhaps have met this better, is you never told us, well, what you said everybody was excited. Did any speaker say, you know, before this meeting, I never realized that I always start with so, or I never realized that you could provide evaluation so quickly. What were the benefits for the speakers, and what were the benefits for the people that are doing lots more evaluation than they're used to? I think that would be very helpful. You really convinced us that it was an exciting meeting, people had fun, but you didn't really tell us how they improved as speakers. Those would be my suggestions to you. Love the enthusiasm, love the many new concepts, things I've never heard before. I may possibly actually be looking up evaluations to see what else could be done. I would suggest perhaps if you're going to do this particular speech, you hew more closely to it, and I would also suggest you give us more feedback from the actual people who participated.